Heather Zykowski, the babe with the power, and coming up next on WAYOLP Rochester is The Sound of Tomorrow, where we've got just a little bit of news we're going to talk about. And then we're going to talk about some other stuff. What other stuff? We don't know. It's just other stuff.
We do
It's
too.
not. Well, we don't because we're not sure if we're going to get to it all.
Well, true.
And you don't know what I was going to talk about. And I don't know what you were going to talk about. So collectively, we know nothing about anything
That sounds good,
except
doesn't it?
this thing that's coming up because, but first. Best one yet.
Alakazam, Heather.
Al Jazeera to you, Ross.
Yeah, no, from now on it's Robin Marks, you chump.
Okay, I'm in no mood for this. What are you doing, Robin? Why are you talking all weird?
This is how we speak now here, Heather, on the greatest show in Radioland.
I agree that our show is terrific, but what's this? Are we doing Agile now? You need me to story jam an over-the-wall mindset? Because it's not going to happen. I don't scrum.
Agile is creaking, Agile's joints crack and groan, Agile is lame, and in the stagnant flume pond waters where tadpoles, murk, and geese dare not swim, Agile has become brittle, Agile's swan boat has sailed, Agile is 86th.
Yeah, that is fine by me. But then, what was all that gobbledygook you were blabbering?
Oh, you didn't get the memo?
No, Ross, I never get any memos. I've got my system set up to send them straight to the trash.
That explains a lot, actually.
But it doesn't explain you with your swan boats and flume ponds.
I'll explain it to you in room terms then. Agile is the official production hack is dead. Carnguistics is the hot new office philosophy that is going to launch SOT enterprises to the top of the wheel.
Carnguistics. Carn like meat. Oh, sure, yeah. The stakes are high. I guess I get that.
How dare you?
Hot dog! I'm ready to sink my teeth in and ham it up.
Stop.
You can't slow my salmon roll.
Carnguistics isn't about meat, Heather. It's where we talk like carnies now.
Carnies?
Yeah, bread tossers, ride jocks, juice men, or juice, people. That is sky grifters, so quit acting like a 1st of May and get with the Fireball show.
I liked it better when I thought it was talking about meat.
You can talk to the concessions manager about that one, but for now, are you ready to oil your arc keys and tighten those ropes, or do you want to be left behind like so much glitter and sawdust after the big top folds? Don't you balance those darts?
So, you're saying we're going to have to clean the midway to razzle-dazzle the clems to keep them from getting all rangy?
That's the John Robinson.
Right. We wouldn't have to KB.
Now you're getting it.
So what's our user story? I mean, what's the hard flash?
Oh, Lord, I have no idea. Do I look like a carny to you?
Oh, I mean, kind of. We both kind of do.
Yeah, fair point. We don't really shave. That's the thing.
Never. Why?
Yeah, why? Waste of time.
Rangy.
Hey everybody, I'm Ross Johnson, your favorite co-host.
And I'm Heather Zykowski, the babe with the power. Welcome back to The Sound of Tomorrow on WAYOLP Rochester.
It's the sound of the place with the people and the time and the go all around where the world.
Oh, I love how you write those beforehand.
Yep.
You just got a big list of them.
I do.
That's really, really good.
Run them by our SOT focus group, which is
Is it 2 dogs?
It's my drunk self. And my drunk self thinks they're just fine.
Yeah, your drunk self is not wrong.
Free entertainment, people.
What more could you want?
Ahead and complain. We don't care.
No, we don't. It's true.
We don't. Leave those 5-star reviews. Hey, Heather.
Hey, how are you?
Good. What's going on?
Not too much.
Hey, you want to get a little? Okay, so we promised, and we're gonna try to stick to it. I want to get the angry part of the show out of the way early, and then we can just do some fun stuff. What do you think? What do you say?
I think that's probably a good idea. We've been awfully angry lately. We continue to be angry, but maybe we don't have to be angry all the time.
I'm just gonna get this off my chest, right? So we've talked about reproductive rights, of course, because sort of in the zeitgeist
Yes.
right now. We've talked many times about the, I don't know, the like anti-trans rich old lady to fascism conduit.
Yeah.
The slide at the water park, I guess, is what I'm picturing. You get on and you go climb up to the top, and then it's like anti-trans, and then you just slide down. You just go in circles and you keep spinning. You go as fast as you can. You go faster and faster and faster until you're just like, you know what? I don't like black people either. That's what seems to happen. So I want to talk for a minute about Bette Midler.
Right. Okay. I saw just a little something about this.
Yeah, and I don't want to go into ton of detail with this. So basically what happened was there was a New York Times opinion piece, and I will be 100% upfront with this. New York Times opinion piece was behind a paywall, and I don't have a subscription to the New York Times, and I didn't want to pay for the New York Times just so I could read this article that it sounds like I don't want to read. This opinion piece, right? So it was, but from enough, it was critiqued and broken apart by enough people whose voices I respect,
Mm-hmm.
and praised by people whose voices I really don't have a lot of respect for.
Okay.
And to the point where I was sort of like, I feel like I probably, again, being 100% upfront that I did not read the actual article. I have good, I have it on reasonable authority that I would probably not agree with the article
Mm-hmm.
just
Yes.
based
And
on, again.
it's
So
another reminder that we do not make any money doing this show. So sometimes we cannot read the articles behind the paywall.
correct. So normally, I would try not to talk about an article behind a paywall, but this was important. So Bette Midler, who has been I would say
Mm.
a queer ally advocate
That was what
for
I thought.
right, for most of her life and career, and I think has been on, I think I would have agreed with her on an awful lot of political issues up to this point. So she tweeted out, so part of the, and so another piece of context here. So before I read what she tweeted, so there's this New York Times article, which again I didn't read. My understanding is some of the basis of this New York Times article is this: there's been this right wing talking point that's been going around for a while, where basically what happened, and I think we even talked about it on the show. There was a British hospital that basically put out a set of guidelines that were like, hey, you know what? Someone might come into our hospital, like a trans man might be pregnant, you know, we, all sorts of scenarios, you don't know. So, and it was basically like, here are some terms you could use if you encounter patients like this. Here are some ways you could, here are some ways you could refer to these patients. So so people aren't fumbling around. So we have a consistent,
Mm-hmm.
so we know what we're talking about. Very reasonable. And again, this is one British hospital.
Okay, so this wasn't like
And
the
this,
entire country. This wasn't the government imposing language that must be used and
right,
censoring freedom of speech, etc. Just to
right,
clarify.
which
Okay.
was sort of the talking point about it. And it was, so it was twisted into, this is not just this one hospital. This is not just Britain. This is like the world now.
Okay, the world
um,
government that we
the
understand
world,
probably does exist in some way, shape, or form, but in a more
right.
shadowy way than most of us have knowledge of, concrete
You know,
knowledge.
the world government is now no longer allowing us to use the term women. People who
Mm.
have, you can't say pregnant woman anymore. Or you have to say like birth carrier, or whatever the terms were
Oh,
in the thing.
sure. Right. Oh, I remember this. Some of the things that they were saying we had to say instead were kind of gross.
Right. Um, so, but again, the context for all that was this like one document that was like, here are some alternative terms for like, pregnant woman. And I forget what they
Mm-hmm.
even were, but because these scenarios come up.
Oh, maybe
So
pregnant person. Not that
yeah,
hard.
basically, I mean, literally, yeah, that was some of it. So Bette Midler tweeted again, based on this New York Times article, which my understanding was based on, at least on part, on this idea that's cropped up based out of nothing, that you are not allowed to use the word women anymore. Otherwise someone will like come and kick you and throw you out of a, whatever. So she tweeted, women of the world, in all caps, we are being stripped of our rights over our bodies, our lives, and even of our name. They, whoever they is, don't call us women anymore. They call us birthing people or menstruators and even people with vaginas. Don't let them erase you. Every human on Earth owes you. Um, and some people responded to this. A lot of people responded to this like, hey, Bette Midler,
Mm-hmm.
here's the basis of this, of what you're saying. Perhaps, perhaps you don't understand the full context here.
Okay.
Here's
Like
here's
legit
here's
trying to be helpful, saying like, "Hey, person who's known to be a gay ally, we think maybe you're confused and we're trying to help out."
right. So she responded eventually with something that I don't feel like I need to read the whole thing, but like, feel free to look it up. But it was a very weird like, hey everybody, I just want to tell you that I was just saying that I thought this article was really great, and I was just talking about this specific article. So, if you're mad at me, I've been a good ally and you shouldn't be mad at me, basically. It was weird. I mean, it was sort of like weird. It was defensive. It wasn't, it was a, I guess I should, maybe I should read it. Hold on. Give me one
Yeah.
second. Maybe I should just read it instead of trying to characterize it. So
Right,
give me
because it
one
does
second.
well, you're
Vamp,
looking it up.
vamp, Heather, vamp.
Oh, you got it? Oh, I was just
No,
gonna
vamp,
say
Heather,
it
vamp,
was. I'm trying. Quit yelling at me. I was gonna
vamp,
say
Heather.
it seems like a weird, even just if that's what, like, if in her heart she has hatred for people, it seems like a bad move for her popularity and the way people think of her as being a supporter of queer people, because
Yeah.
when I think of her, that's what I think. And then I was realizing as I was thinking about that, like maybe she's famous enough that she no longer cares. And she's like, excellent, I have made my money on the backs and the faith of my fans. And now I can reveal who I truly am, a person filled with
Yeah.
hatred.
Well, so okay, so here was what she responded. And this is the last thing she said about it. People of the world, in all caps again. My tweet about women was a response to this fascinating and well-written piece in the New York Times on July 3rd, and she reposted the New York Times article. There was no intention of anything exclusionary or transphobic in what I said. It wasn't about that. The article, by the way, is entitled "The Far Right and Far Left Agree on One Thing: Women Don't Count." Um, it was about the same old SHIT women, all women have been putting up with since the cavemen. Even then, men got top billing. But seriously, folks, if anyone who read that tweet thinks I have anything but love for any marginalized people, go to Wikipedia and type in my name. I fought for marginalized people for as long as I can remember. Still, if you want to dismiss my 60 years of proven love and concern over a tweet that accidentally angered the very people I have always supported and adored, so be it. But the truth is, democracy is slipping through our fingers. I'm all in on trying to save democracy for all people. We must unite because, in case you haven't been paying attention, divided we will definitely fall. So it was like, that all sounds fine until you realize she's basically like, oh, by the way, this article was really great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's a weird non-apology, and it's also a little like, I have a very big pet peeve about people who think they get to keep their ally card forever, no matter
Mm-hmm.
what. You know what I mean? Like, I have
Yeah.
been an ally. I have been an ally, so I can say whatever I want. Like, I have a really big pet peeve. Like, you don't get to
Right.
decide you're an ally, and you don't get to keep your ally card forever. It's just
Right.
because. So anyway,
Yeah.
so I guess my point with all this is like, and I don't know. Again, I think this is a little bit of. I think there's some very clever marketing being done in the anti-trans world. So, and I think this whole like, oh, they're trying to erase women thing is seems to be catching on with people who are not good at paying attention or whatever. My my point with all this, and the reason it like seems so depressing, I guess, is not just because of this instance. It's this whole like, it makes me weep for our ability to ever accomplish anything.
Mm-hmm.
If because what's going on, because so I'm using Bette Midler as an example, right? But like, what's going on, because Macy Gray did a bunch of, which was much more explicit about being anti-trans, and
Oh
some other.
no.
So what seems to be what, so like a bunch of straight, um middle-aged, religious extremists. I mean, even in terms of like the country, even in terms of like our kind of religious extremist country, these are people who are tend to be more extreme, have had this long-term plan to erase reproductive rights for women and erase queer rights for queer people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this has been a
Yes.
decades long plan that has now come to fruition, and it's not like a secret plan.
No, no, no.
They've said they had this plan, and they've also, now that they've done it, they're like, hey, look what we did. Is this not great? We did this. Aren't you
Well,
proud of us?
I mean, I mentioned how back when I was in high school, I was writing defensive abortion papers
Right.
in school as part of a project. It was a hot button topic then. So
So,
just to affirm that this has not been a
right.
secret agenda. This is something that's been way, way, way like wanted badly.
So it's very clear who's done this. It's very
Yeah.
clear who, and they're proud of it. They're not hiding it. Um, so the fact that I'm seeing tons and tons and tons of, you know, who's to blame? Trans people. is It's monumental. It's so monumentally stupid, and it's
Yes.
so playing into the hands of the people who want to take everything from you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
it's
I mean, just
mind-blowing.
just to be like, just to have this happen and be like, you know what they're right about though? Trans people did this. I mean, it's I cannot even. It's not just monumentally stupid. It is. It makes me not be able to figure out how we're ever going to get out of this mess.
We're
Because if we are
not.
that stupid, because that is stupid. I'm sorry. I can't, there's no like, I have no empathy about this. I have no like, there's two sides about this. If the Supreme Court comes down and says reproductive rights are gone, and you're like, well, probably, I heard somebody use a they them pronoun, probably their fault.
Hmm.
I,
Yeah.
you're not, I don't know where we're going to get. And the fact that a lot of, I mean, again, you know, social media amplifies, you know, certain voices. So I don't know if this is a lot of people, but I feel like it's enough people where we're already in like a fight that is, you know, we're already in a fight that's going to be very narrowly. I don't even know if winning is a possibility anymore, but it's going to be very narrowly um, eked back slowly.
Mm,
So I don't know. It's so it's depressing. And
yes.
it's and I mean I don't even want to I don't want to make that a sideshow either for like it stinks. It stinks that trans people have to deal with this crap.
Oh, yes.
So I don't want to make trans people a sideshow for like the other issues. I mean, it stinks for trans people too, but the fact that this is some, you know, there's sort of this coordinated thing of like, let's deflect to trans people
Hmm.
and queer people in general, but trans people especially. Let's deflect to trans people. And you've got people like Bette Midler going, yes, let us do that. What a good
Hmm.
idea. You know, what's
Yeah.
going to happen? Nothing. We're going to achieve nothing like this. Nothing will happen. And
Oh,
it's
nothing good. I mean, some more trans
nothing good.
people might get beaten up or
Yes.
hurt or
Yes.
harassed or, injured in
Absolutely.
some way. So it might lead to, there may be consequences. There's not going to be a good
Oh, there are being
result.
consequences.
Yeah.
That's not a may that's going to happen. I mean, I don't, you know, I don't want to make this triggering, but uh, those things are happening. I mean, you
Yes, of
know,
course.
those,
And they haven't stopped happening and they continue to
right.
happen. And now there's just more weird rhetoric out there that doesn't make any sense that might make someone think they could use that as a justification, which is
I,
completely wrong and very sick.
I don't know what this, I don't know what this rich lady pipeline that J.K. Rowling built was. From like, you know, J.K. Rowling, who's at the same time, I mean, you see, I was sort of curious about like, once in a while I'll get curious, like when things like this go on, like what's J.K. Rowling up to? Um, and you see, she's cozying up to, you know, on Twitter and her social media. She's cozying up. She's retweeting. She's having dialogue with very like anti-women people. I mean, there's a guy named Matt Walsh who does not believe in any queer rights, does not believe in abortion, believes women should get married and have babies immediately, and if they don't, they are tramps. Um, you know, and she's, you know, she's chatting him up on Twitter and like, oh, it's great that you're, I mean, this sideshow, the fact that so many women have been, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you think about like, we'll get over this. I know the angry part of the show is supposed to be quick. You know, you think about like the civil rights movement. I think there are always people have their own opinions, and no group of people, however they look or whatever, is a block. But in the civil rights movement, I think most black people were in favor of civil rights. In the queer liberation movement, again, we have, you have weird right wing queer people and all that, and of course, any group there are a variety of opinions, but like most people were in favor of, most queer people are in favor of civil rights for queer people.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to women's issues,
Mm-mm.
you can't get women on board, and that's where I guess maybe I don't know, maybe I should just consider it your problem. I don't know,
It
but
is, I mean, it is my
you got
problem,
to throw your
and
hands up, right? Like
I understand some of it. Um, and I am speaking as a cishet woman. I was raised as a girl. I was socialized as a girl. I
Mhm.
grew up to be a woman. I've been socialized as just common, just whatever stereotype you have for woman. That's my
Sure,
socialization.
pretty lady. Yeah,
Um, I mean, that's one of the most important things about me. Yes, according to that
right.
socialization, that's one thing of value. It's okay that I have a little education, like a little. It's cute, right?
Yeah,
just a little education. Um, it's fine that I'm funny as long as I'm not funnier than a man.
right.
Um,
Which you're not, so
but
that's fine.
no, I mean you're the funnier, obviously, and
Obviously.
I will tell you, I've been listening to our show with people who are men. And this used to happen consistently in my life. I would crack a joke that was really funny, and the man would go, "Oh, that Ross!" Like seriously, to my face with me in the room, as though that was a good joke.
I
So,
love that.
I'm
I love
supposed to
that that
have.
happened.
If I have a job, it's supposed to be like a little job because what my job actually is to have a lot of babies and keep a nice home. Maybe I have some little hobbies. They're all little though. I don't do anything of any great import or consequence because you need to understand women are incapable of doing anything of great import or consequence. We are there to uplift our obviously male partners, cishet male
Sure.
partners, because that's who you're going to find once you've graduated your little college with your little BA in something like pottery, something cute that you do. And then as you grow older, you are obviously, as a woman, you're less desirable because you're not young anymore and maybe you can't have the babies. So your role is to be maybe a good grandma. And maybe you can get a little eccentric then. Like you can maybe have a little too much sherry when you play bridge with your friends, or you can take some classes at the senior center. But that's really like, that was the expectation of me that I'd have this little life. It was most important that I fit some conventional beauty standards, and I was supposed to have a bunch of kids. That's what I was good for.
Here's the weird thing. And this is where, we're so, because it's class too, because there's always this you think about like a Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's like, who's a powerful congressperson. I mean, has a big voice, but uses that voice almost exclusively to um, raise up a male dominated misogynistic society.
Yes.
So it's weird. Like it's also very class based and like, you know, I don't know.
It's classist and
it's so
it's also
complex because,
racist, obviously,
oh, of course. Of course.
which is why I can speak from my perspective. There's another thing that women are taught starting very young is to be splintered against each other.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of girl power. There's look down on her because her parents don't have as much money. Look down on her because she doesn't look like you. Look
Yeah.
down on her because she's prettier than you. Look down on her because she has a boyfriend. There is a lot, and it's very, very, very encouraged. I don't know. Tell me this. Is it common for men to say, like, I'm not like the other guys? I hang with the girls.
I don't know what that means. So no, I don't know.
You've heard the I'm not like the other girls. I'm a real guy's girl.
Yeah, no, I think men are more socialized. I mean, you get the race stuff.
Mm.
You get you get the no homo stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
there's like, there's definitely there are distinctions when it comes to race. There are distinctions when it comes to, you know, girliness or femininity
Mm-hmm.
or any
Yes.
sign of homo-ness. You get some class distinctions, but no, I think in general, and maybe this is why this is why men are successful at keeping everything together, even though they're not quite half of the population. I mean, I you definitely don't get the same level of, or I guess competitiveness is expressed differently. Like, be competitive on the field or be competitive in business, but it's not a it's I don't think there's the same. I mean, this is my speculation based on whatever my life experience is, which is not a lot to do with any of this, but I think that, because I was never in any of these clubs that we're talking about, so this is my sort of guessing, but um I don't think there's that same level of, with men. I don't think there's that same level of like tearing other men down, or encouraging men to tear other men down just for the sake of
Yeah.
doing it. I think when there is that, it's a little more productive. Maybe productive is not the right word, but I think it's like in a competitive, like, do it on the field, and then, or whatever, it's like very goal oriented, but it's not like doing it just to do it, which I think, to your point, I think women are encouraged to tear each other down just for the sake of tearing each other down.
Yep. Yeah, because the internalized misogyny is real and it starts very, 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 very young. So does the understanding that women are less than men, saying things to little girls like, oh well, when you get married and have babies, your husband will take good care of you. And I'm hoping that that happens less. I was even thinking today, um there's so much on appearance too. When I was a girl and I went to elementary school, I remember my parents would often ask when I got home if anybody had complimented my outfit that day. And if they had, I had to tell them what the compliment was. I don't remember at any point my parents asking, like, did anybody laugh at your joke today?
Yeah.
Or anything about something that might be not. They were worried about test scores, of course, but it was always like how I looked, and not like, did you have any nice conversations with any of your friends today? That kind of thing,
Hmm.
which struck me as kind of weird. And maybe I'm just not remembering, but because it just occurred to me today. But there's an awful lot of socialization. So I was even talking about the overturning of Roe versus Wade with a friend of mine Friday night.
Hmm.
And she, I've known her forever. We grew up together. And we were saying, like, it's just so interesting. You and I talked about this the last time we recorded, how you would think, like, oh, in this country, it's what, a little bit over half women. Wouldn't you think that all the people who identify as women would be for women's rights? But no, there's so many women who hate women.
Yeah.
And they prioritize certain privileges. A lot of it's white privilege. They think of that more than being a woman. And all I can think is like they they somehow think that if women have equal rights, they're going to lose, for example, their spouse who's their provider.
Yeah.
Like there's some kind of threat, or as we've said before, if someone gets a right, then that's going to take something away from you. There are certain
Well,
women
and
with
that's
a lot of privilege who maybe don't want to see women who have less privilege upraised because they think it's going to lessen them somehow.
well, and that's like our biggest problem as humans, and that's part of this anti-trans thing is, oh, if we let trans women into feminism, then we don't get as much. There's not as much for us, or something. Like, I don't understand the logic, and I think people don't understand the logic, but they don't give themselves the space to think it through. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's 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 tiresome, and
And it's frightening.
it's frightening. What's I guess what's frightening and depressing is that, I guess most of my life I really did think we were on an upswing. It was like too
Yeah.
slow. It was way too slow. It was not, people were
Yeah.
left out, but I sort of felt like, okay, this thing is cranking forward slow, more slowly than it should. It's cranking, not for everybody, but on balance, there is you know, maybe we went from 1% good to 1.5% good to 1.8% good, but like it was still kind of going in that direction.
Yeah.
Um, and now I feel like it's not going in that direction anymore. And I don't know who is in the fight even. I mean, I don't know who's even pro moving forward anymore. I mean, I think
No.
they're and the people that are pro moving forward, again, again, Bette Midler is a weird example here, but like someone who I would think would be pro moving forward is so easily distracted. Or you get people like the pro choice but pro Trump woman in my family that I was speaking to of this stuff. And pro choice wouldn't have wanted to see Roe v. Wade overturned, but at least, this is sort of a paraphrasing quote. This is not me talking. At least like, oh, these people that just have baby after baby. It was a weird, like, it didn't even make sense. Like, because you get the
Yeah.
classist stuff about like, oh, these people want to have babies just so they can like collect welfare, that
Ugh.
whole thing.
Yeah.
But then
Ugh.
somehow also like people just have babies because they know they can get abortions, which is like both of them seem like incredible pains in the butts. I don't know why people think either of those is like a is a thing that anybody'd want to do. Like
Yeah.
I don't think there's a ton of money in having a ton of children. I don't
No, I
think
don't
that's a
think there
sound
is.
financial move for anyone.
It's no.
And I don't think there's a ton of money in like I don't think there's a ton of benefit to, you know, getting pregnant as often as humanly possible. Just so I can go get abortions. Like just because that's a fun thing I like to do. I don't think
Yeah.
that's a thing that people like. I don't again, if you think it through, none of it makes sense, but here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's been interesting. I even even after the election in 2016, I somehow still had some kind of glimmer of hope. And I don't know
Mhm.
how I managed to keep it alive, but somehow I was like, there's gotta be some light here somewhere. And I really feel like something in me changed like real hard when the Supreme Court announced the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
And it I'm not even sure what to do with that, but I have a new sense that we're sunk. We're just sunk. And I don't know how much longer I have to live. Um Hopefully a good long while. But
I guess I don't know what's coming down the pike. In the sense that I don't have a good read on like these kids today. Like I don't know. I think they are I think as a whole they are going in the right direction, but I don't know if they're any less susceptible to the distractions and the weird things that I mean like old people are definitely susceptible to all this crap. Like old people have a special susceptibility to all this crap. Um we have, we were not brought up with this stuff. We are not I'm saying we, but like I don't include us here because I feel like we're smarter than that. But it's a generation that wasn't brought up with social media. It wasn't brought up with these
mhm.
distractions. It wasn't brought up with it wasn't brought up with knowing how to navigate this information.
Do you think it was brought up with more of a value placed on honesty at times?
How do you mean?
I feel like something I notice happening to me all the time now is people making statements that are just blatant outright lies or false equivalencies. And
Yeah.
then when I say like, that's not true. on occasion they double down or they just change the subject. It's like,
Yeah.
how, why are people just lying to me all the time? And I feel like there used to be some kind of like internal value or honor put on the truth.
And
Like it
again, I
feels
think,
good to be an honest person.
yeah, and I think this is, again, I think this is, I hate, and I don't want to be one of these like, it's the kids with the social media, because it's not the kids with the social media, because the kids aren't doing all this stuff.
Mm-mm.
It's like, kids aren't on Facebook.
No.
Facebook's for old people. Um, so much of the social media stuff is, I think that I think that people have gotten themselves in a tizzy. I think, and I think people see so much misinformation that I think people have lost. Um, I think people, I mean, it's sort of exactly what you're saying. I think people have lost a sense of the value of the truth, that the truth has value, that there is objective truth, at least to some things. Um, and that truth has value because, again, you're seeing stuff that is designed
Mhm.
to confuse you and fool you. And when you see,
Yeah.
when you see two things that are worded and designed to fool you, and they're saying completely opposite things, and they both sound convincing, and we see that all the time.
Yes.
And I certainly see things on social media where I think I am like, I think of myself as like, I am pretty savvy. I am not I am
Mm.
not easily. And I see stuff where I'm like, oh, I cannot believe that. And then you find out it wasn't true. And I was like, well, I
Yeah.
should have done my due diligence before I got worked up about that.
Yep.
Um, and that happens all the time to me. And again, I think I'm fairly savvy. At least I try to,
Well,
before I go
but you're
like,
only human, so at least you have your reaction. And then when you find out it isn't true, you go like, "Well, I should have known. Glad I found out now." Instead of just
right.
finding out it's not true and continuing to go like, "Yeah, no, it's true."
I will,
Well, I know everyone says it's not true, but I know it's true.
well, I will tell you, I don't want to pat myself on the back here, but I had a
I'll
piece
patch
of
you.
supporting information, right, for what I brought up earlier in the show. I had a piece of supporting information that like I thought made an extra, added some real zest to my point.
Yeah, because that's what we like.
And then I dug into it and I was like, oh, that's not true. I was convinced that was true, and
Mm.
it's not. Or at least it's questionable. Like it's sort of like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm comfortable using this. So again, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I did that at least. I mean, I was
Yeah.
fooled by the thing, but I also, before I went around trumpeting it,
Right.
I went back and was like, wait, is that really true?
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I mean, again, I hate to blame everything on the social media because it's not like it made people racist, and that stuff's always been there,
No.
but
Yes.
it's definitely, I think it definitely encourages our worst instincts. I think it definitely brings out the worst in us, and um I don't even want to say just gullible people, but it steers gullible people in wrong directions. And even just people who are like, I mean, gullibility, but not even in a bad way, just like, oh, I'm not looking at this stuff all day. I'm not super well informed, because nobody is on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you see the stuff that social media is directing at your eyes because it's the stuff that's gotten the most, when people when people are like, oh, gravity, I believe in gravity. Gravity's fine. That's not going to get a like. Nobody's going to like that. Nobody's going to share that. But if you're like, here's an article about why gravity's made up and it's false and it's wrong, that's going to get a lot of traction because it's extreme and it's contrary. So, or again, the thing about, again, when you see like, oh, here's this obvious, like, here are people jumping up and down going, we just got rid of reproductive rights. We're so excited.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get a thing that's like, it's probably trans people.
Yeah.
you know, the thing about the obvious thing about the people going, we just got rid of reproductive rights is boring. It's boring. Nobody wants it. Nobody cares about that. It's boring. The contrary view that doesn't even necessarily make any sense. That is a thing that people will look at and go, oh, I never thought about it. I never thought about it being the fault of trans people that the Supreme Court got rid of Roe versus Wade.
And I don't understand the logic there whatsoever. But again, there isn't any.
There isn't any. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know. So I guess my only hope is like that there is a generation coming up that is savvier and smarter and less interested in a lot of this bullcrap that old people seem to really be into, which is like being on the, scrolling through social media nonstop all day, every day to try to find the most extreme stuff or the stuff that makes them the most angry. I'm hoping there's a generation coming up that's savvy to that. I'm hoping that there's not a generation coming up that's just like so indoctrinated into that world that it's just like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. But like, I feel like it's possible that it's the former. And that gives
Mm,
me a little bit of hope, but I don't know. I just don't know.
I don't. Like I said, I mean, I think there are some great kids out there,
Yeah.
but I also think the sample size of kids that I know, that would be
Right.
the children of my friends
Right.
who, since I get to choose my friends, share my views. Um, so, they're being
I
raised
mean,
by their parents who have views similar to those expressed upon this show.
but my sense is a lot of kids are like, their social media exposure is not like the obnoxious political stuff. It's like wacky TikTok videos. You know what I mean? Like,
That sounds great. They're learning the dances.
right. So, but then do they get old? Did they get old and then get into the annoying? Do they get into the obnoxious fake political stuff too? Like, as we've seen, I think you and I have both seen in our lifetimes, people that are our age went, go from like reasonable people
Right.
to nut jobs.
Well, and then I'm thinking about the kids of, for example, the anti vaxxers who are Trump voters.
Right.
And what are those kids learning just by living in their houses?
Right.
So, for all of my friends who got their kids vaccinated as soon as vaccines were approved for children, there are also children living in the homes of the people who are like, vaccines are made up. The government's trying to put a chip in you. Trump is king.
Yeah.
And there's nothing those kids can do about being taught that, medicine and science aren't real and don't work.
Mhm.
And
But
so
of course,
then, maybe in schools they're learning that medicine is real
yeah.
unless they don't go to school. And
Right. I don't
home is
even know.
school.
There was a piece about you know I was reading too, and I don't have the stats right in front of me, but basically like no books have in the history of the American Library Association, so many books have never been so challenged in like the history of their record keeping on that. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff about librarians quitting their jobs because they're being threatened because of, they are giving they are they are allowing information to be dispersed, or they have books on the shelves that they won't take off the shelf and set on fire directly in front of the person who's threatening them. I don't know. So I mean, but I don't know, like, how does that read if you're a kid? Like, you know because I grew up with, I mean, I had a very reasonable immediate influence in my life, which I think helped me a lot. But if you went to my extended family, I mean, you had real, like, you had QAnon
Mm-hmm.
back in the day. I mean, you had like
Yeah. Same.
wild conspiracy theories. I mean,
Yes.
the Illuminati and world government and, antichrist and, all that sort of stuff. So I don't know. Like, I don't know how, I mean, just because you grow up in that kind of household doesn't mean you come out feeling like that's okay or good. But sometimes it does. I don't know. So that's
Right.
tough.
Yeah. That's why I was just positing. Like, I really don't know because the sample size of kids I know is very small.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I will at some point. Some
Get a
point
kid.
be no, 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 no.
You actually don't have any choice now. So
That's true. That's true.
yeah.
Oh no, I'm so old. Oh,
Yeah.
how am I going to carry it? They're so
Yeah.
heavy. Ugh. Well, if that's the case, if I'm going to get a little bundle of joy delivered by the government to my home at any moment because they've determined I'm a woman and it will not stand that I don't have one. You know what I'm
Right.
going to have to do, Ross? I'm going to have to clean my house.
You're gonna have to clean your house.
And you know how I'm going to clean my house? I'm going to use this
Probably
NPR.
obsessively, knowing you. Yeah.
I'm going to use this NPR article that gives me a lot of tips to start cleaning my home with sustainability
Okay.
products.
This
So
is
this was
the
pretty
greatest segue
fun.
in the history. This is the greatest segue in the history of Sound of Tomorrow. Yes,
Wasn't that awesome?
that was beautiful.
So we got a couple minutes here to talk about this actually like cute and fun, not terribly stressful, I hope. Article I saw in NPR because we've probably talked about it before. We try to eat whole foods. We try to use the least processed products we can find at times.
Yeah.
We have a slight
Yeah.
interest in that.
Yeah.
I am not one of those people who sits there and talks about home cleaning, going like, oh, all those chemicals. You're putting all those chemicals all over. Because everything's a chemical. It's fine.
Right.
But I do it, I will admit, my cat is so weird. Like he licks stuff. So he'll be like
Yeah.
licking the walls and he'll be sometimes licking the side of an appliance and he's just a freaking weirdo. So for that
Ileana's a licker
reason,
too. I get it. Yeah.
yeah, for that reason, I do have some concern about what kinds of chemicals I use to clean my home
Yeah.
because I don't want to be using something that might be toxic to a cat.
Right.
And then freaking weirdo comes along and starts licking where I've just cleaned.
Right.
So this was interesting to me. The first tip that they have about, and this is sustainability. For me, this is more like if my freaky cat goes and licks something, do I have to be worried that he's gotten poison?
Okay.
The first item that they mention is you can replace paper towels and sponges with old t-shirts and these Swedish dishcloths, which I tell you, I got some of these Swedish dishcloths. They're like these spongy towels made from cellulose and cotton.
Oh
So
yeah.
you can
I
wash
got some
them
of those.
over and over and over again. And once they start getting real ratty because they're just cellulose and cotton, they'll just decompose.
Okay.
So if you're worried about your plastic sponge, or you know how those sometimes get really smelly and they smell really
Yeah.
bad,
Yeah.
and you don't like to think about how they smell because you touched the one at work that once and it left the smell on your hand and you couldn't wash it off all day?
Why didn't you change it though? I don't understand.
The
Why
one
did
at
you just throw it
work?
away? Oh, well, the one at work. Yeah. Don't touch. It's just don't go near that one. Oh, people use that.
That one just traumatized me, was all.
Oh, did you use that at
I
work?
learned the hard way. I learned the hard way by touching the work sponge.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go throw it for a while, but yeah.
I know, right? Everybody knows the work sponge.
Right.
There's ways to look. You can cut back on packaging, and they mention in the article how heavy even it can be to carry around all that laundry detergent in the big plastic jugs, and it's
Yeah.
like a ton of water that you're buying. And they mention in this article, I really want to try these just because they sound neat. Laundry strips.
Laundry strips.
Laundry strips. So they look like strips of paper packed with concentrated cleaning agents which dissolve in the wash cycle. And they come in an envelope, and you just peel off a strip and you throw it in the wash.
Oh,
It's less expensive, less packaging, and you don't need to carry those things all around your house and then have those
yeah.
big jugs. That just sounds neat to me.
That does sound neat. And I mean, anything where, anything where you're not buying something that's full of water is
Yeah.
usually kind of preferable.
Yep. And then they do mention, I've heard about these and I'm intrigued too. And of course, they're advertised on podcasts, which is a great freaking way to get me into something. There are those cleaning products where it's hand soap, but you like buy the pretty bottle once and then
Mhm.
you just buy these tablets. And every time you need to refill it, you put in the tablet and fill it with water and like shake it. And
I
you've
don't know
got your
about the
new.
tablets.
Yeah. They sound so cool. So they have like hand soap and dishwashing stuff and like spray cleaners and glass cleaners and everything. And there are companies that you can just get like a bunch of these tablets, which again, it's lighter to ship. It takes up way less room. It's not bottle after bottle after bottle.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have the perk of coming with like a pretty bottle that you can leave on your counter, which again, intrigued because I'm into this stuff.
That's a great idea. Yeah, we got into something like that, but it was like liquid soaps and stuff, and it was all like sustainable stuff and whatever, but it was still liquid, and then it turned out we didn't like the stuff.
Oh
But
no.
I like those things if you can combine that with, I mean, I don't know if shipping that stuff is better than buying it at the store, for sustainability, but like I loved the idea of like, because they would just send you new and again, we didn't do it very long because we turns out some of the stuff stank, but
Yeah.
like I like that stuff where you can just, you have like an auto ship or whatever, and you every two,
Hmm.
every month or 2 months or whenever you need it, you get that soap or stuff that you just that you're gonna need. That's always fun.
It's pretty fun. And they do mention in this article, I do not know about this in this region. Apparently, if you have like the big bottles, there's something called a refill store. And so you take your big like detergent bottle to the refill store, and then I'm assuming it looks like a drink dispenser, and you just fill your thing. I don't know. I've never seen one of these. I'd be
Yeah, me
curious
neither.
too. Um, there's a thing in here about reading your labels if you want to be eco-friendly and non-toxic, like we've talked about with the beauty industries. You can put a lot of words on product labels that don't really mean anything. So if you actually care about things you think could poison your cat, it's better to really read the ingredients than just go like, non-toxic, because that
Right.
might just mean non-toxic to humans.
True. Yeah, a lot of those words, as we know, they sort of don't mean much at all.
But so then we get into things that I definitely want to try because they will be safe again for the cat. And they have a couple different formulae on making your own simple formula cleaning products.
Okay.
And so there's an all purpose cleaner for floors and surfaces. And it says the supplies are a quarter cup of vinegar, about 3/4 cup of water, a spray bottle, and then they say essential oil optional. Let's bring up the cat again. I have read a lot of essential oils can be harmful to cats and dogs.
Yeah.
So for me, I would refrain from putting an essential oil in anything I'm going to use on a surface that the cat can access.
Right.
Like just in case, because what if he walks on it when he's wet and then he gets it on his paws and then he licks his paw and then, but
Absolutely. There's just no
I
reason to
I
take the
have my
risk.
issues. So just for my own sanity, really, I think this is possibly for my own sanity more than his actual health. But if it makes me feel fine, I'm leaving out the essential oil. But it sounds fun. I love things that smell great. But a little
Yeah.
vinegar water spray. And you can use that to spray your floors before wiping with a mop or a rag.
Hmm.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah,
And
I
then,
love yeah, I love like I like the idea. I've never like gotten good enough recipes, but I always like the idea of like, what if I just made my own stuff and then I know what it is? There's a woman on a TV show that I saw at a convention, Amanda Tapping, and everybody was asking her all these like questions about like episode 42 of Stargate or whatever you were on. And then but she's in her 50s and she looks amazing, right? She's like perfect skin. She's like, oh, and the stuff I do. And she just casually threw out like, oh yeah, and I make my, just making my own skincare products. That's something I do when I'm at home and I have a little time. And I was like, what? And I couldn't get a question in because everybody was like, what about episode 42? And I was like, I need to know the recipe for your skincare products. Excuse me. Like I was trying to trample people to like, please tell me the recipe.
I
Never
know,
got it. So yeah, no, I think that's always great because then you know exactly what's in it.
right. Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, it's also quite a bit cheaper. So
Yeah.
there's not only that peace of mind, but if you have some vinegar and water around your house, which I think a lot of people probably do,
Yeah.
it's going to be a fair bit cheaper than a lot of things I've seen at the store. And then there's a hydrogen peroxide disinfectant spray. They suggest you could make with half a cup of hydrogen peroxide, half a cup of water, and you put that all in a spray bottle, and then you spray it.
Sounds great.
And there are apparently other formulae that say that you can put some lemon juice in that as well.
Okay.
But they say with the hydrogen peroxide spray, you want to spray it down. And then for the disinfectant properties, you want to let that sit for a little while,
Okay.
which I use a bleach solution on some things that the cat can't access.
Hmm.
And with that as well, it's just water and bleach in a spray bottle. I'll spray, the porcelain sink down. Then I go do some other chores. Then I come back. White as white could be. And the final one they mention is that baking soda is great for scrubbing your sink or bathtub, which it is. I'll tell you, you're going to be rinsing for a while.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it depends. I have found concentrations of things do make a difference. So sometimes just using a little less can help with that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
But so I thought that those were some really fun tips just because I don't know. it's neat. I like to try different cleaning supplies. I like to change it up sometimes. And I like to be sure that my home is as safe as possible. They do mention with the vinegar solution that it can make your house smell a little bit like vinegar, but that smell will dissipate once the cleaner dries. And so their solution was like, open a window.
Yeah,
Like
and I
it's
mean, if something smells like a cleaning product for a little while that goes away, like that's not something that's going to bother me
yeah,
too
I
much.
don't mind. And if the cleaning product's a little bit of vinegar, that's fine. It airs out quickly.
And you can also, I mean, the other thing, like I do with where I make bread on the counter, I
Yeah.
make it right on the counter because the counter's good. Like I will use the like disinfectant sterilizing stuff and then I just go over it with water so that to
Mm-hmm.
get rid of, because I don't want like bleach in the bread or whatever.
Right.
So I try to use something not too bad, but I do want to kind of
Yeah.
sterilize it just because
Yeah, you want it
I'm
clean because
wacky like that.
no, I
uh,
understand. Because I guess then we could argue like the bread's going in the oven, Ross.
right.
Why are you worried? You're gonna
Right.
bake that thing for like an hour.
But I do figure like I would probably, because I figure, I'd probably be better off with the germs from the counter than I would be with like bleach from the counter in the bread.
Yes.
Cause so that's why, again, with those things, if you like the cleaning effect, but you don't like the after effect, either whether it be smell or, you're worried about the cat's going to get it or
Right.
whatever, like I said, I sort of do it with the sterilizing stuff and then I go over it with
Yeah.
water just to clean that off.
Yeah. And now I think people know that we both have some OCD tendencies.
Right. Which is
I mean,
fine.
everybody knows that about me. That's fine. It's
Which is
fine.
fine.
I
Hey,
accept my
everybody.
diagnosis.
So, speaking of speaking of obsessions, I'm obsessed with getting out of here. How about you?
Oh, I'm obsessed.
Let's make a run for it. I want to apologize to everyone for our
Yeah,
for
we're
promising
sorry.
that we weren't going to be angry for most of the show,
Next
when
week,
in
tune
fact
in
we
to
were.
find out if the government has dropped off the baby I'm supposed to have.
Oh, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I bet you are. Uncle
Bye,
Ross.
everybody. So what we're gonna need, Heather, is to frame our joint with the best gaff banner we can find to get the suckers to flock to our cheese wheel. And I don't want to see you being a comic book about it.
Never. In fact, I was thinking up a key girl plan for us to run a little badger game.
Maybe do a little cattle rustling as well.
As long as you don't haul in any rain tips.
See, isn't this better than Agile?
Anything is better than Agile.
So stupid.
Story jam this.
Ugh. Scrum.
No, I don't.
Let's scrum. Nobody knows what we're talking about.
No, scrum
You are if you're in a stupid office.